so this is Stacks Chats with David, week 2. I don't know why we're naming them weeks. I think it's just because we're talking every week. But we've been talking about when we first met and everything we've been up to. And in week 1, I think we got through about 2 months of last year in the 2 hours we spent talking. We didn't get too far, so we can just pick up from where we left off there. But before that, I'm in Colombia now. This is like the Bitcoin lifestyle, I guess. We want to talk more about Rainier, who we mentioned last time we met in El Salvador at the Harvarding Party. He organized and hosted for John, did most of the organization for John, who created the Medellin Bitcoin conference, which was held in January. And he said I helped inspire him to do it at some point. Don't know how and why, but he got involved in that and organized it because I had my eye issue. I wasn't able to fly to Colombia to do it, to attend the conference. But apparently it went really well. He picked me up at the airport, drove me to Oliver Velez's amazing villa overlooking Medellin, multi-story, completely open plan, really beautiful, really beautiful. We spent 5 hours, after a 20-hour flight, we spent 5 hours talking about Bitcoin with Michael as well, who arrived, just checking in on what was going on at the conference. And we spoke about, this is why I asked you when we kicked off last time, we spoke about where people get their Bitcoin information. And what it does, it helps me when I meet new Bitcoiners, it helps me understand them a bit more, where they are down the rabbit hole, how deep. Obviously, I go through do you have any shit coins? Is everything in self-custody? And then it's what information have you read and used? And he talked about Gigi's Bitcoin in his time, which for me is one of the absolute classics. And then Michael, he was a bit embarrassed by it. He said Andreas Antonopoulos. And that's nothing to be embarrassed about. He's a brilliant person to learn from in those days. But then he was slightly, because Andreas went off on a bit of a Ethereum tip, mastering Ethereum book. So
man,
that's why he felt.
Dude, that'll make the smartest guy dumb as fuck, dude. I just don't understand Ethereum, dude. Maybe it's just me, but man, I don't get the value proposition. I don't know what problem Ethereum is solving, like it's really clear what problem Bitcoin is solving, but all these alts, I just, it's like innovation theater. I don't know what problem they're solving, it's like, we don't need to have a fucking distributed ledger blockchain tech to like put, I don't know, housing titles on or whatever, right? Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
maybe that's why, just Bitcoin maxi here, dude. It's just, it makes so much sense. And it's so important. The money thing is so important. The rest of it is kind of noise to me, at least.
Yeah, of course. I just orange pilled an Uber driver. He didn't speak any English, using Google Translate. And he took me to the cash point machine. I got some pesos out. I was waving them at him going, this is fake. And I was typing into Google Translate, this is fake. And he didn't understand it at first. This is like, I said, Bitcoin's money. This is fake money. I was all through Google Translate. But he was very open to learning, 30 odd years old, got a wife and a young daughter, obviously Uber driving, so not wealthy, lived in Colombia his whole life. And he was very interested in the fact that, as I told him my story, the generational wealth story, that, my family line come from a wealthy family, and my great grandmother kind of gave it all away by selling all the pubs and bars in London and sitting in the final one. She had a bag of gold sovereigns and just gave away the family wealth. And so 100 years later, this is a story I explained to him. I now feel like I'm the person to bring back generational wealth to the senior family. And he kind of, get it, David. I want to do the same for my family. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. When you first told me that, I was like, wow, it hits hard. It's definitely a trip. You're like, how does that even happen? Like, I guess, it's a wild world, man. But well,
she went nuts. She had 4 husbands die on her, and just went nuts. They called her the Black Widow. She was known in the family, and literally a bag of gold sovereigns gave them to drunks that would come in the final pub that she had.
That's wild, huh? It's not as effective as burning your keys. See, if you go mad and you decide you want to fucking vape the generational wealth, it'll be a pro-rated contribution to all of humanity. Just take the keys to the grave, Less effort, too, than having to hand out gold shillings, dude.
Yeah, completely. So anyway, Colombia here now, in Medellin for 2 weeks. The Rainiers introduced me to other Bitcoiners that live here. There's a bar we went to. There's a Bitcoin bar. We are all
Luke
Satoshi.
Mikic, he was in Colombia for a while. I don't know if he's still there.
Yeah, I think
He had good
was
things
at
to
the
say about the
conference.
place.
It's beautiful. It really is. It's it's low cost. The people are friendly. The weather's amazing. It's the first time for me in Colombia. Just so far so good. Here for a couple of weeks. Just nice to get out of the rainy London.
Yeah. I was supposed to go to the conference. We just did so much traveling, and we were in El Salvador for like 5 weeks, and we got home and it was like Christmas is coming and we were just wiped out. Didn't want to spend the money. We just needed some time to kind of like regroup, integrate all the experiencing and socializing, like something you're really good at. You're so good at keeping up with like your network of people, like I struggle with that. Like I make deep connections with people and I really love people, but I'm very introverted, and it's like I get tired when I socialize. Like some people get really energized when they're socializing, and you're, I believe, one of those people that just gets so fucking much energy from being around all the people. I'm the opposite. It's like extremely draining, but also like uplifting, and there's a lot of growth involved, and it's like expansive in all the ways. But it is a challenge for me, and I spent so many years of my life kind of, head down, a quasi living in hiding, really, producing cannabis. And so the last year is like hyper socializing. Dude, I have so many DMs and the shit that I just like can't keep up with. It's so hard. I get up in the morning, I like check my phone, my message, do my thing. And it's like, I send a message off real quick, like the important ones. And then like my kid gets up and she's like, I don't want to be on the phone in front of her. Like I struggle to keep up with the socializing aspect like that of, I don't know, all the friends that I've made. And so anyways, I needed some time to lay low and integrate all the experiences. So I was bummed that I couldn't go to Colombia. But
it was a lot. It was a lot. Last year was a lot. So we went to El Salvador, and then I went to Dallas after that, BitBlock Boom.
Yep.
And then we went, then you came to London. Now then there's a film festival in Warsaw I went to, but then you came to London. We hung out at mine for a little while, only a couple of days. This is part of the, I'm exhausted. When you went to London, then we flew to Amsterdam, then Amsterdam to Arnhem, train
it happened. So this is where you shine. So you're like, hey, fuck, we were in the pool in El Salvador, and maybe it was, we're chatting with Anders. Yeah, and then you're like, oh, he was like, are you going to Prague? Are you speaking at Prague? And I'm like, no, I don't know. And you're like, oh, you're not going to Prague? Let me hit you. Let me talk to Anna and like get you a speaking slot. I'm thinking, fuck, they got public speaking. Like what do you mean? What do I have to say? Like I don't know. Fuck. Then of course I'm getting an email from Martin, like, hey, do you want to come to the conference? And I'm like, okay. So then I'm talking with my wife. I'm like, all right, so we're gonna go to Prague. But then we got the Freedom Forum in Oslo. Fuck, we could go to Oslo. Then if we're going to do that, we could go to Pizza Day in London. And next thing you know, it's like 5 weeks. We go to London. Then we're going to go to Amsterdam. And then you're like, hey, you want to go to Arnhem? Which that's a funny story, dude. You want to go to Arnhem? And I'm like, yeah, let's go to Arnhem. That sounds good. You're like, I get you a speaking spot in Arnhem. And I'm like, all right, thinking that's the last thing I want. But fuck, all right, I'll do it. This sounds good. And so it just turned into this big European tour, which was a lot of fun. It was dude, it was a lot of fun, but it was a challenge too. I got a 2-year-old and my wife, and so we landed in London. You put us up, you got us a nice Airbnb, showed us around for a few days. That was a lot of fun. Then what? Then we went to Amsterdam. You met us in Amsterdam.
Then we flew to Amsterdam to get. Oh no, yeah. Did we fly together?
Yes, we did. Yeah, I remember being in the London air. We took a black cab to the airport, and right. You dude, you cut us through all of the VIP lines and shit. You're like, no, you just act like you're supposed to be there. I'm like, all right, fuck, dude, got us right through.
It's a good trick. Act like a king to be treated like a king.
Totally, dude. Yeah, we're supposed to be here. Oh, first class as fuck, dude.
And that's a Bitcoin taxi driver. He took us. We got 2 black cabs. And he's a guy I met just completely randomly. I mentioned I'm going to a Bitcoin conference. He says, I love Bitcoin. I'm all over it. And now I have a black cab in London who I pay in Bitcoin, who brings me to the airport anytime I travel. Yeah, so he came, he got another cab, took us there. Then, yeah, landing Amsterdam, I think you lost a buggy. That was, we were waiting around. We had all the
Yes, we
remote,
landed in
all the
Amsterdam. Oh
remoters.
gosh. Yep, we had all our nice luggage, and then we, dude, the stroller didn't show up, and I remember sitting there, dude. I had to walk to the other side of the airport. It took fucking forever, dude. It was like a 2-mile trek. I'm running and shit, thinking, oh, everybody's just waiting. I get there, it's not there. I got to fill out this form. The whole time I'm thinking, this is a $200 stroller. Like, we got shit to do. Do I just go buy? I can't. How do I replace the stroller? I just fucking replace it if I was at home. Like, but I need this thing because, like, dude, the kids got to take a nap, and if I don't have this stroller, then my fucking it's gonna be hard on my wife. Like, it's not gonna make the trip fun. So, anyways, we got to handle. They delivered it to the hotel, which worked out well. Amsterdam was fun, and then Arnhem, dude. Arnhem, that was the most embarrassing fucking experience I've ever had. But in hindsight, it broke you out of your shell. You know, I try to think like, how are things happening for me, not to me, right? And it's that like shifting from being a victim, having that victim mentality, to like taking responsibility for things, and then also it's a perspective shift that allows you to look for positive in things. Then it keeps your vibration higher. It's kind of like going back to what we talked about, what Bashar says, you know, act in your highest passion with you take action and you have zero insistence on a particular outcome, and you just trust that what happens is for your highest, and then you're going to continue to compound that strategy on top of itself. And so, dude, so we get to Arnhem, and we take the train there. It's fun, you know, it's like cool. And I'm so fucking tired. And I knew how tired I was. And I was like, kind of like, I think I had like a bunch of positively charged ions built up in my body because I hadn't grounded. Like when you're not grounded, touching the earth, you're subject to all of the rogue EMFs on the planet. And then especially when you fly, it's like your body's all out of calibration. You don't know where you're at. And so, yeah, I just felt really fucked up. I didn't feel good. And I knew going to Arnhem, I was like, I don't feel fucking so hot. Like, I can't really formulate anything riveting to say right now. What do I got? You know, it's like, so we show up a little bit late. We get there, and I'm like out front talking to a bunch of cool plebs and whatnot. And a few people recognize me, and they're asking me questions about California and the cannabis industry and whatever. And I'm trying to like share my thoughts. Dude, I couldn't formulate a thought to save my fucking life, dude.
And that's what you were telling me. I was inside with Nasty, and you were outside. You came up, I can't formulate my thoughts. I'll be shredding.
Totally.
But Amsterdam and Arnhem, I thought would be perfect for you because of the weed story. No, weed is legal in Amsterdam. There's a story there. There's a lot of Dutch people. There's like 200 adopting Bitcoin people in Arnhem. I thought perfect for you to be there and to tell the cannabis story.
Well, it was definitely appreciated, and like it was a good experience in a lot of ways. And one of the things that I suppose that, you know, I struggle with even to this day is like, you know, you have all these, I don't know, Bitcoin advocates, public Bitcoin personalities who have some sort of specific niche, right? You know, they're either developers, you got BTC Sessions, who's an educator, you got guys like Jeff Booth, venture capitalist, who understands deflation and free markets, and he has a very deep spiritual side to him as well. You could tell he's so good at saying, distilling enormous concepts down into like very small, little, hard-hitting 2-sentence like little punchlines and whatever. And so, yeah, there's like a certain element of like, yeah, so hey, I'm the fucking weed guy who loves Bitcoin, like put it on the balance sheet. It's a deflationary world. Like, yeah, like what else? Like what do I got to say? I don't know. I have so much to say, but there's this like certain, like, I don't feel like I'm an authority on any topic or anything. Right. And so what I'm really like passionate about sharing, at least with my personal experiences, is that like we do live in a deflationary world. Most people don't understand that. Like I remember the first time I heard Jeff Booth on Breedlove's podcast. It was the Booth series. Must have been 5 or 8 episodes with Booth. And there were several times where he was talking about like, okay, so the natural state of the free market is deflationary. I remember hearing that. I'm like, pause, hold on. Like I got to wire new neural pathways here, because that's the opposite of what we see taking place. And it's all predicated on the optical illusion, because we're measuring the value of things in a unit that's being debased. It's a moving unit. It's a variable. It's not a given. So you can't accurately like solve for what's happening. Anyways, so that's what I'm going to talk about. I did it in Madeira. You know, Andre asked me, hey, you want to come do one of your rants as a keynote? And I'm thinking like, fuck, I don't even know. Sure, yes, I will, but we'll see how this has to go. And I did great, right? Because I spoke to what I really understand in my personal experience. And so I was going to do the same thing in Arnhem, and I get on stage and I'm like, dude, I'm looking at, there must have been like 100 people in the room. And as soon as I like started,
it started off,
first.
Eric. At first, no. There was a few people who sat down, and then it was kind of end of the second, was it endish of the day? And you sit on stage.
They put me on at 4:20. 4:20,
and there's people coming in, and then as it's like there's more and more people coming in, and more people coming in. It's getting busier and busier and busier. It ended up being the busiest session by far, which is partly why I was keen for you to do it, because I knew it would go down well. And that's when you sat down. I'm in the front row, sat next to Nasty, and you start with the booth thesis. And
it's just we live in a deflationary world,
and then nothing else came out.
And then I was just like, oh, shit. And there I am. And all the lights are on me. And I'm by myself. I'm fucking got this microphone. I'm sitting on stage. And then, like, more people are piling in, dude. And I remember I took my hat off. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I can't rip right now. Like, how does this work? Like, what do I do? Here I am on stage. Like, do I get up and walk away? Like, I can't. Oh, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, I'm down to just take the L. I'll take the L. I'm the dumb fucking and then of course it's like that deep insecurity inside me, like I'm just the dumb stoner on stage. You can't fucking formulate a thought, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'll take the L. I can handle that. That's life. But I'm like, well, I have 15 minutes. I have to fucking do something here. And like, what the fuck am I gonna say? Like, I can't do, and I'm accustomed to, at least, and this is like what I believe people at this time like know of me, right? Going on these fucking 20-minute journeys where like I'll tie all these things into this thought and like loop it all back together. And it kind of takes like a lot of, I have to use all my cognitive horsepower, especially in a moment like that. And I had nothing, dude. And I drank too much coffee. And I was hungry, and all I wanted to do was fucking sleep. And there I am, I'm fucking on stage. The lights are blaring. And I remember I'm just like, fuck, dude. I'm like, hey, so I remember exactly what I said.
You said, I can't do this. Could someone ask me some questions?
Yeah, I can't do this. Does anybody have questions, or can we turn this into a panel, or is like anybody have any ideas? Because like here, I'm literally, I got nothing, dude. And then Nasty, I saw her poking you. And this is what's really funny about the situation is you and I had been chatting quite a bit at this point. We just spent time in London. We had, spent the whole week or whatever, 2 weeks in El Salvador. We had time in Madeira, exchanging messages and whatever. And I knew how, I will say that like you had a kind of, from my perspective, I would call it a fear-based perspective about your anonymity, right?
Yeah.
And so you and I had this ongoing dialogue where like you had legitimate, like a lot of legitimate questions. And it was almost like you were poking and prodding over time. Like, wait a second, like, how is it that you grapple with some of these concerns? And so I think it was just like kind of like an interesting moment where like I had to take the biggest L ever to like break you out of your fucking shell, to like be like, hold on, dude, like people want to hear what you have to say. You're one of the most interesting Bitcoiners that I fucking know. That's why we're buddies, right? And you know all these people, you have all this insights, you're a hardcore maxi, you have this super interesting life story. Like people want to hear that. And if you're concerned, speak the fuck up, right? Like that's kind of what my attitude was, is like, wait a second, when I started putting my rants on Twitter, I had no idea what I was doing, but my thought process is like, I want to see the world on a Bitcoin standard. And even if I'm just one other motherfucker just saying the same old shit that all these other Bitcoiners are, it does help, right? And so anyways, you got on, got on stage and saved my ass, dude. You fucking owned that shit. You're like, all right, bam. I forget what you said, but you just took the microphone. You're like, Eric's fucking content. You're like, this guy is fucking world class or some shit. I don't know, some nice compliment, and then just started asking me questions. And then the conversation flew, because I could answer the questions. I just couldn't take the fucking audience on the 15-minute fucking journey that I intended on doing so. Oh, man. So that worked out well. You fucking saved me, dude.
And then, because I didn't want to go on, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't think I wanted to be in front of the camera.
I knew how fucking much you didn't want to do that. Oh, man.
I put you there, and I'm not going to let you drown in front of more and more people that want to get people standing around the side, piling in. They're trying to force their way out, people standing at the back. And I met some guy, after it finished. I don't know this guy, but he came up to me, knowing me. I think we met in El Salvador, but I didn't remember him at all. He goes, "David, you did so good. It was just such the right thing at the right time to hear." But you were mortified. But I remember when we got a taxi back. We were going to stay in Arnhem. We decided to blow the hotel out and get a taxi back to Amsterdam.
You got us a refund at the hotel. You went in and chatted with the ladies. I was like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, I was devastated, dude. I'm like, oh, Jesus, just fucking. They can have my money. I'll jump off a bridge, dude. I don't. You're like, it's all good. We'll go back to Amsterdam, dude.
And then that's when Lacey in the car, she said, well, maybe you two should do something together.
Yep.
That's when she came up, and that's what this is now. It's kind of a Lacey concoction where she had said, you two should do something publicly together. And this is it. And we just, as you say, we just see where it goes. Do this, see where it goes. But yeah, so that was meant to be. I just felt for you. I was like, I've got to risk it. I don't want to do this, but I've got to do it.
And it meant a lot to me, though, too, because I knew how fucking deeply adverse you were to, like, I don't know, getting rid of your Anon status, first off, like, because you were like, yeah, I'm an Anon, I don't know, and you had, like, deep reasons and thoughts. We had discussed it a lot. But I'm like, fuck, this guy, like, went against what he's, like, he was very uncomfortable with being public, and he jumped on stage to save my ass. Like, that's real as fuck. And so that, like, meant a lot to me. But I remember just being in the van on the way back, that hour drive, dude. I was in the back just sitting there like, okay, how do I not let this just fucking just eat me up, dude? Like, it was it felt like the biggest L ever. And then what's funny, too, is how did it come up? You were talking with Kenny Florian, and then, I don't know, you sent him the video. You're like, oh, hey, look at what happened. You sent him the video. Then Kenny hits me up like, hey, man, do you want some advice on public speaking? And I'm thinking like, yeah, I do. Like, fuck, you got to watch me take this. Dude, I was just fucking on YouTube the other day because I have like I'm living two lives, dude. I have an Instagram live where like I have friends and family that I grew up with that all follow me on Instagram. And none of the people that I grew up with follow me on Twitter. And so I put all this Bitcoin content on Twitter, and I got whatever it is, 9,000 followers on Twitter over the last year. I got like the same 1,500 people that follow me on Instagram for the last many, many years. And I don't put any Bitcoin content on there. And so it's like I have two sets of followers. And now that I've been on more podcasts over the last year and whatnot, people are like Efrat. I did a rip with her in El Salvador, and she's posting all these clips, and she's putting me on as like she's collabing with me. So I don't know. I just basically accept the post, and then it shows up on my page. So now my Instagram has Bitcoin content, me talking about Bitcoin, and I'm getting a bunch of questions from people that I grew up with about Bitcoin. And then family members that I haven't talked to in fucking forever are reaching out to me like, hey, I listened to your podcast. We're so proud of you, all this stuff, whatever. They're wanting to connect. And so I'm like, they're like, hey, where's more interviews of you? And then I go onto YouTube and I put in Eric V. Stacks. And I think like the third video that comes up is me fucking taking an L in Arnhem, dude. This is 3 days ago or some shit. I'm like, how do I deal with this? Like, I guess it's just part of life, right? Like, you know, if you're just going to say a bunch of shit, sometimes you're going to say stupid shit. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. You know, like I have to think about like BitBoy Crypto, for example. I'm like, look, this guy is like the biggest buffoon in the world, and he feels like he deserves airspace. I guess so do I, right? Like, I don't know. Fuck, it's... Anyways, dude.
Yeah, you can't compare yourself with BitBoy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, you know, we go to events, and yes, we don't sit and watch the speakers. We do that afterwards. We go and meet other Bitcoiners. But they're not the world's best speakers. And so my career is tech sales, where I'm presenting technology solutions to very large corporates and boards of very, very big businesses. And you have to spend a long time preparing, practicing, pitching to your boss, them asking questions, objection handling, just getting yourself kind of battle hardened for delivering a highly professional presentation. And it's just not a core skill for Bitcoin. I don't think it matters though. You know, Jeff Booth is insanely good. It's not his projection of his voice is very calm and soothing. He's like crying at the end in his pitch in Madeira. So I think it's like in the back of the van, going back to that, we were like, it doesn't matter. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. Just do you. Yes, people have seen you not performing, but it doesn't matter. There's Bitcoiners that are amazing speakers, some are, but it doesn't matter. If people are fearful of, DJ Valerie Love.
Yeah.
DJ Valerie Love, she told a story in Madeira about how she was so painfully shy and she was freaked out about speaking in public. And she said she's got a young son. She said her son was going, "Oh, you'll be okay, mummy, you do it." And she, had to overcome that fear and do it. She's fucking amazing at speaking. Mm-hmm. She did such a good job. But I think everyone has to go through that. And for me, it's the anonymity thing, because I've on Twitter, and the truth of the story is the truth, that I heard about Bitcoin in 2010 through WikiLeaks. My assumption was that I tell people that. People think I've got not millions, of course, but a lot of coins, and I could be a target. That was kind of my concern.
Makes sense.
I didn't want to tell the story, and something I do want to get out of becoming more public, is to find someone else that found Bitcoin at the same time via the same method as I have, because everyone has their story, and we all love telling our origin story and our birth story. But I actually haven't found another person yet that heard about Bitcoin through WikiLeaks. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping one day I will meet them, because I've talked to a lot of people. And you're going back to being introverted. I think there's Myers-Briggs studies about Bitcoin. It's like 90% are introverted, and so there's not so many extroverts. I'm I can't remember the acronym now, but my personality type is an extrovert. But I didn't want to come out and do this kind of thing. So and you and the introverts do a lot of it, and the extroverts aren't doing it. So it's got
that's interesting.
Dichotomy.
Yeah. So Arnhem was fun. Then I was in what? We went, you stayed with Neelis in Amsterdam. We went and ate a phenomenal dinner at some steakhouse there. Gosh, that place was so good. I forget. Yes. We had a giant porterhouse. I don't know. That was a lot of fun. Then we went to Oslo, which was amazing, by the way, dude. That
one of my favorites.
My mind. Oof, dude, the buildings, the place is so beautiful. Everybody's so healthy and normal. Nobody had purple. There was no fat lesbians with purple hair. That was one of the things that really stood out. I was really excited about, dude. I flew out of San Francisco airport, right? And so it was very refreshing seeing Oslo and spending time there. The Freedom Forum was a little tough because they're talking. It's just that there's a heavy energy there. And I understand that these people are really working to help solve,
activists. They're freedom activists.
Yeah, and I have a lot of respect for that, but there's a little bit of a heavy energy there. And then I found I was talking with a couple people, and I had to be careful because they're really focused on the atrocities that they're trying to expose. And we're in conversation, and it's hey, over time, Bitcoin will sort this kind of stuff out, and there's kind of aversion to hearing it. And so it's kind of okay, well, I'm just going to kind of sit back and be an observer here. We met Matt Odell, met a few people, chatted with Jeff Booth for a while. That was pretty fun.
But that's all, the hotel was... But the hotel is phenomenal. But that's part of your thing. Your vibe is insane positivity around Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you do end up having, especially in Oslo, these conversations you're having, the heavy weight of it. And that's why we need people like you. We need more people that have this, absolute, resolute, positive vibe about the benefits of Bitcoin, because we know they're there. It's just getting them across to these activists and just bringing some positivity to the world.
Well, it's like American Hodel says, rational optimism. It's rational optimism. It's rational. It's like there's a reason. I'm not just being yo, hey, have fucking positive vibes, smoke the hopium and your life will be good. No. And maybe that's real. I don't know, but that's one of the things I love so much about Bitcoin is as you go through the process of understanding Bitcoin and the implications of Bitcoin. And like Jeff Booth says, it's great imposition. It's imposing a new rule set on our civilization. It's like forced cooperation. And so that really is it's so easy to leverage Bitcoin to be fucking pumped, dude. This is a fucking miracle. I can't even at times I'm still just oh my God, did I just in my own little because I kind of feel like we're spiritual beings. We're all kind of we're creators. We're like, I don't know, we're like source energy, like fractaled or something into this like multi I don't know, faceted, multi-part like thing where it's experiencing itself. We're creating and projecting our own life experiences, and so there's part of it's like, wow, like I found the holy grail. Like, this changes everything. This makes my life so much better. Like, and I was listening to the podcast you just did. You were like talking about, you talk to your friends and you're just like, look, I just want you to feel what I'm feeling. Like, I want you to experience what I am experiencing. Like, I know I sound crazy, but like, fuck, would you just read a book and like think outside of the box for a second? Like, it could change your life. Like, yeah, so
it's
rational
hard.
optimism, dude.
Rational optimism, that is the way. Yeah.
But going back to the pool, dude, and you were up all night. You had been partying with all the people, having fun.
That's right, because we planned to do this there. I booked a podcast. Danny got us a podcast studio, and then we went. It was the Bit Refill party. There was a lot of really cool Bitcoiners there. I met Calais there. Gigi was there. I don't want to dox where people go, but there's a lot of very cool Bitcoin. Matt O'Dell was there, I think. Jack Mollers was there, and I met that crazy guy who told me he was a multi-billionaire and wanted to fly me to Thailand for some stem cell research or something crazy. But I was having such a good time. And a few times you're going, is it time to go now? Do you think we should go? I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I was like,
so I broke off around 11 or something, left. The next day we were supposed to record or something. And I think you were up all night. It was like 8, 9 in the morning the next day. You're like, hey, I can't do it. I didn't even sleep. I've been partying with everybody, having fun. So then it was like, cool, well, let's go down in the pool. And I wanted to go into the pool so I could ground, right? The pool was on the bottom floor, and it's the most effective way to like reset your system. Like, if you're like it's like walking barefoot on the beach. If you can submerge your body into a body of water, that'll like deactivate or shed all those positively charged ions, and it'll reset your system. And so, we went down the pool. I think I was in the sauna. This is where, you and I are chatting. We're like, what are we doing with our lives? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I got to figure it out. I got to move someday. Where are we going to move? And this is where you're like, hey, man, you're floating around the pool. You're like, we're spiraling upwards forever, man. That was the first time you said that.
We were the only people there, weren't we? We were the only people in the pool and in the jacuzzi. We're going backwards and forwards. The sauna was getting a bit much for me at times. I had to lie on the floor because the heat was quite hard to deal with. And we talked a lot about, what do we do? Where do we go? Do we go to El Salvador? And you said, let's go to El Salvador. You're a salesman, David. I was saying, but my wife and daughter, they don't want to go to El Salvador. He said, you're a salesman, David. Get the best pitch you can possibly put together and convince your wife and daughter to go to El Salvador. And then we were there for ages. We were there in the sauna. This is where we talked a lot about your Bitcoin fixes fiat thesis that we've been talking about we're still talking about it. It's been a very deep discussion for a very, very long time. And I was saying maybe you should whiteboard it because I can't get my head around it. We should do that. We need probably a whole podcast to talk about that. We should get that out there at some point because it's just insanely fascinating. Yeah, we spent a long time talking.
I've never really heard anybody speak to it exactly from the angle that I like think about it, but everybody I've talked to it about it with can't really see a flaw in the thought process. And it's essentially, since some people might listen to this, I believe that Bitcoin will bring stability to the existing financial system, the fiat paradigm, bring solvency to the system. It's another vector for the currency to debase against. It's an asset to lend fiat into existence against. But as that happens, it'll over time decrease the debasement required to keep the system solvent. So kind of stabilizing and fixing fiat at the same time it ultimately replaces it. And that's a whole thing we can get into in another.
Yeah, we will do. Yeah, I think he ran the thesis past Jeff Booth in Oslo when we were there.
Yeah.
Like running the thought process behind it. Because we were talking, he's probably the best person that may understand it.
Yeah. I was in LA and I was talking with Jason Lowry in October, I believe, or September. it was the end of the day, and it was just him, and I slipped on a couple people standing in a group. 2 people walked away. I had a moment with him, and it's like I was like, all right, hey, I have a question for you. Like, tell me what you think about this. And I took like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and just ran down the whole thing. And it was like, okay, he's like, okay, so this, and he's like, yeah, this. We get to the end, and he's like, theoretically, that's fucking sound, dude, because I had never really thought about it like that. But like in theory, what you're saying makes sense. You know, he's like, you should ask. So Robert Breedlove had just messaged me a couple days before that, inviting me on his show, and he's like, you need to talk to Robert about that one because I don't see a flaw in your thought process there. That's kind of interesting. So.
Yeah, that's coming up soon, isn't it? So we met. Who's Robert's friend in Nashville? Met his friend.
Peter,
yeah, Peter.
Yes.
He said, yeah,
it'd be
good
guy.
to get Eric on the show. Talking to Breedlove about it's definitely the right shout.
Yeah. So Oslo was a blast. We wrapped up Oslo, and then we went to Prague. Prague was fun. You guys saved me again. Dude, fucking Martin is like, hey, where's your slides? I'm like, slides? What the fuck do you mean slides, dude? He goes, yeah, everybody's got to have slides, man. And I was like, I remember just being fucking frustrated. I was like, well, fuck, dude, what do you mean? Like, you should have told me this, like, how about 3 months ago when we lined this up? Like, I'm in Prague, and I got to make fucking slides. Remember I called you? You're like, not a problem, dude. I'll get Michael will help you. We'll bang this. We'll fucking bang this out and make you some slides. That was a tough one too, because I got Martin reached out. We had a Zoom call for fucking, I don't know, an hour. And so we just talked about all this shit. And he asked me specifically to talk about my experience in the cannabis industry and watching the government attempt to regulate this multi-billion-dollar industry and the leverage that these farmers had by not participating in the regulations. And he's like, you got to talk about that. And I was just like, it's kind of a weird keynote. I don't know, dude. Fucking. And he really wanted, I was like, can I talk about just deflation and like my experience with cannabis prices? Like, that's a way easier thing for me to explain. I think it's more impactful. It means more to the, anyway.
What does Bitcoiners like more than anything? To be told what to do. We're not fans of being. We know freedom maxis. Please don't tell me what to do. It's like, but out of respect for, it's the biggest conference in Europe. There's 10,000 people there. They do an amazing job. It's one of my favorite places. I love Martin and Matthias. I love the work they do. I actually spent my 21st wedding anniversary there, as you know. It's our wedding. My wife Kath came to the conference. She missed your presentation. Yeah, she did that in Madeira as well. We had a laugh about it a couple of days ago. She goes, every time I go to a conference where Eric's speaking, I kind of leave the conference early, which she has to do to get back for our daughter. She's like, I missed it. Yeah. But I thought it was superb. But,
I did well. I felt good on stage. Getting on stage in front of a bunch of people is so fucking hard, dude. There's something there. It's like every cell in your body is like, hold on, like you do not want to, why are you doing this? And I think it's just hardwired into us to like, we want to be socially accepted. It's like hardwired into our genetic code. Our ancestors who weren't socially accepted got ostracized and died alone in the woods, right? So we're descendants of people who fucking knew it was important to be liked by others, right? And it's a very vulnerable thing standing up there. Yeah, but that was fine. I didn't mind that. I definitely wasn't a fan of like the topic per se. I didn't think it was the most impactful, riveting thing that I had to share, but I did feel decent. Like I got off stage and it was like, oh, well, I didn't miss a beat. I was able to explain, like I was confident. I presented what I had to say. But it was
the slides
still
were cool. And the slides
were epic.
They
you
did
guys
look good.
Fucking killed them. Dude, the slides were so good. Michael killed it on the slides.
He's so good at that.
Yeah.
And he did design style. He's got your design style down pat. But you didn't like having to press a button to do the next slide thing because, rather than the 20-minute rant where we just completely engaged in what you say, maybe the weed farm because it's such a beautiful sight to behold when you're walking around it, when you're ranting. Yep. So it's then to a kind of stagnant stage with pressing a button to get to the next slide. It's like, it's not really your vibe, is it?
Yeah, it was good though. It was just kind of still one of those things where like, I don't know, maybe it's just like my own insecurity or whatever. It just kind of felt like, well, I don't, this isn't that, it's not my favorite topic, you know, and like, does anybody give a fuck? You know, like I guess like, and then, but there's all these other people that are like, they're sharing their thoughts. Like, I guess it's like, I feel like I'm like a kid. It's share and tell, like, hey, I'm Eric. This is what I think. I don't know. It's a process for me. It's like, I don't know. I'm going through a little bit of a life transformation. You know, I'm the last fucking guy literally on planet Earth that's going to be like, hey, I fucking have a thought that I want to tell all these people about. Like, it's so counterintuitive for me. It's like, I don't know. It's like also when I started just posting videos on Twitter, it was just like, it just felt so weird, but like I knew I should do it and doesn't even care. What does it mean? I don't fucking know. But like, hey, this is what I think. And
the story, there's the essence of the story is, it really helps get the message of Bitcoin across. And the basis of it is the fact that weed was $3,000 a pound, is it? Or a pound, is it? $3,000, $3,000 a bag. Because of the market forces, the cost per bag went from 3,000 to 1,000, which number one, ate into your profits. But the fiat system is also stealing away the rest of your profit. So it's those two forces that are just stealing from you, and that's how you recognized the value of Bitcoin, and partly one of the things that helped you realize, and you lived through it, where you just saw the things collapsing, the two market forces just destroying your wealth. You spent years and years and years creating. So that's the essence of the story.
You can't have so you can't have the natural forces of like the free market, which are deflation, benefit people when you have an inflationary monetary system. So the Keynesian economic model is like, cannot overlay onto the free market without causing these two opposing forces are causing havoc. And so I was experiencing dollar denominated wage deflation and then inflation in my cost of my operating my life essentially. And so that squeeze is what led me to like understand. And it was it was when I discovered Bitcoin that I was like, oh, okay, wait a second. Like, this is a fucking big deal. And I couldn't articulate it very well. Intuitively, I understood it. So when I listened to the Saylor series and then the Booth series, then I like understood, okay, commoditization, these free market forces. Then if you have this asset or you have this fixed monetary unit, then it actually allows that deflationary force to benefit everybody. You can go to the marketplace, you can solve a problem. As that problem gets solved by other entrepreneurs, the solution becomes more abundant. The product or the service becomes more abundant. The value of the product or service drops to its marginal cost of production. At some point, you're unable to make money doing it anymore. But if while you had that margin, you took your surplus, swept it into an asset that's appreciating fast enough, then it's a hedge. Essentially, the balance sheet hedges you against the loss of income on the P&L. And that's not actually what I talked about in Prague. In Prague, it was the notion that like when the state passed the law in California for adult use recreational cannabis, they had this multi-billion-dollar existing industry, and you had dispensaries, you had distributors, you had growers, and it was this like carrot or stick regulatory incentive. Like, hey, you get involved in the regulation, we're going to license you. If you don't, we're going to shut you down, essentially. And if you get involved, if you register your business, you go through the regulatory process, we're going to give you priority for licensure. We're going to prevent the big corporations from coming in and stacking licenses. There's going to be a 1 acreage cap, et cetera, et cetera. And what ended up happening is out of the 12,000 farms in Humboldt County, when the regulations got released and the first deadline got hit to register your cannabis business, 123 people out of 12,000 farms registered their business. And so instead of the sheriff's department, the state, whatever, coming down heavy-handed, they went back to the drawing board and they came back with much more favorable rules. And so that because I thought long and hard over the years, like, fuck, dude, are we in for like a really challenging time as Bitcoiners? Because like and then they fight you stage, like, what does that look like? Or as our lives, like, am I in danger? Like, I got this Bitcoin, like, is that like, fuck, dude, what does that mean? Like, a lot of us Bitcoiners have thought about that. And looking at the situation from that experience as a cannabis farmer, watching the fucking state of the state of California and Humboldt County bend the knee, dude, to the constituents of the industry who have brick and mortar locations. Like, it's really easy to go shut down a cannabis business. You can see these fucking these places from Google Maps. And so they bent the knee because they need the revenue. They needed to license this industry. They needed the taxes, etc. And it's just weed. Like with Bitcoin is, dude, the SBR was just signed into effect, which also blows my fucking mind. I couldn't even believe that. So they're not, I don't think that we're going to have this crazy fucking totalitarian, you know, I don't know. What's the word? Cramp down? Fucking, I don't know. Because they're not going to come after Bitcoin in some hardcore way, I don't think. Maybe, I think so. But
what we talk about, but on that, like the strategic Bitcoin reserve, the fact that they're going to audit the coins that they've got from whatever source. I think like half of them are Bitfinexes, so they may have to give those half back to like 93,000. Yeah, they have to give them back to Bitfinex. But we were talking about this with Oliver, Rainier, and Michael a couple of nights ago in this villa, 4 a.m. drinking whiskey, and we're getting a bit. I was getting a bit feisty as I can get. And I was interrupting what they were saying quite frequently. It was a bit, there's 3 basically Americans and 1 Brit. And you'd understand this being America. They were all saying, we just want America to get as many coins as possible. And it's like, rah, 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 America. And I was going, well, hang on a minute. What does it matter if the US collects over time, global hash was it, countries are going to start stacking. The concern is obviously then it stagnates. I want people to be using Bitcoin rather than just holding it as a store of value. I think Oliver's more store of value. I'm like, you need to be using it in some way or other. But we had the debate about what difference does it make? Because Bitcoin's for everyone. It saves everyone on the planet. If the US has 200,000 coins and China has 201,000 coins, does it actually matter? Everyone needs coins. Does that make sense? So there's very, and I see it on Twitter as well. There's a lot of American rah, rah, rah. We're going to get as many coins as possible. England are obviously going to be 4, 5, 8, 10 years behind them, behind the US. But why do we need more? What's the benefit for a country to have more coins than another country? And that's what we were kind of debating. We didn't actually come up with any ideas, but it's just a new thought bubble that came to me. I thought I'd put out there, and if you got any thoughts on that.
I think there might be something in to do with the fact that the United States is the issuer of the world reserve currency. You could say that we're the world superpower. And so it does.
So you need more coins.
Whoever ends up with the largest coins is going to be, and I think we're going to go from a period where, like, this kind of ties into my thoughts around how Bitcoin stabilizes the current free floating, very volatile fiat paradigm. There will be a derivative system. I think Bitcoin, it's like we detached from gold. So you got a 1-to-1 fucking gold L2, gold, and then an L2 on top of it. Certificate become currency. Over time, you could issue more, I know, right? They issued more certificates or more dollars than they had gold on reserve until to the point where now we're free floating. 1971, you got this free floating currency backed by the faith and trust in the government or whatever bullshit, right? So I think we're going to reattach to a Bitcoin standard. And Bitcoin as the underlying asset. And so if the United States has the most Bitcoin and it basically secures the United States supremacy, and like it stabilizes the dollar, and it makes it so, because I understand, generally Michael Saylor's kind of current rhetoric about, so all currencies are going to collapse into the dollar and all properties are going to collapse into Bitcoin. And if the government, or the issuer of the dollar, has a bunch of Bitcoin, then that's kind of like replacing the gold, and the government is solvent essentially. Hey, the government has these assets, and so I don't know. So I think that there's something there. But like, I do understand what you're saying. It kind of doesn't really matter who has the most, but
no, we want to be using it. They want to be used. They want to be in action. They want to be transacted. And then it comes up. Then we get the issue with not everyone can have their own UTXOs. I'm having some deep conversation about that. It's been talked about a lot already. But yeah, I just thought it's quite funny that there's a lot of, on Twitter and in person, a lot of American rah, 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 we're going to get the most coins.
Yeah.
I was like,
I love about, oh, here, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was like, finished.
Dude, what I fucking love about the SBR the United States can figure out, so they're never going to sell the Bitcoin. They're going to figure out how they can acquire more Bitcoin. You got the digital asset stockpile. They are not going to figure out how to acquire more shitcoins outside of seizing them. And they can discuss and figure out the stewardship. And so essentially they could sell some. So what I read, when I look at that, I'm like, hold on. So the government can seize shitcoins. They can sell the shitcoins. They can't sell the Bitcoin, and then they can figure out how to buy Bitcoin without putting a burden on the taxpayer. So like what I see is like basically dump all the shitcoins, put it all into Bitcoin. So I don't know. That was exciting because it was definitely a confusing moment when Trump put that tweet out on Truth Social or whatever about like, oh, the XRP, Solana, ADA. Dude, I couldn't. My head spun. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean, dude? This is like dragnet politics where he's just trying to fucking get everybody he could possibly get into this like dragnet of enthusiasm. And I was just like, gosh, when I saw that, I'm like, there's just no way. It actually made me think we were I thought we were like, okay, 2 years, 3 years out, he's gonna sign into effect the SBR if it happens, right? So then my wife comes up to me and she's like, yeah, Trump signed the strategic reserve. I was like, where did you see that? And she's like, on Instagram. I'm like, you're fucking watching some dumb crypto influencer who's, engagement farming, dude. No way. I went on, did my thing. Like an hour or two later, I got down. I sat on I got on the couch. I pulled my phone out again on Twitter, and I was like, holy shit, he fucking did. He signed into effect the executive order. I couldn't believe it.
So how do the US,
miracle, dude.
But how do the US buy more coins without using taxpayers' money? What do? They sell gold or sell shit coins?
I don't know.
And there's no commitment to buying more. I'm quite happy about that. I want more individuals to stack hard and self-custody and use Bitcoin and for its intended purposes. It's it's going to do what it does, of course.
Yeah.
And then we kind of want, but on one hand, people with Bitcoin want the US to buy as many as possible because it pumps the price, and that would help make our lifestyle a bit more fun. So you kind of get a bit torn sometimes. We're meant to be separating money from state, and then there's like, I want the government to get as many coins as possible because it pumps my bag. It's a bit of a mind fuck sometimes, but it is what it is.
Totally, I'm there with you. Yeah, I think I read something. Gosh, I'm not an expert on any of these things, but I think if they revalued the gold, it gives them some liquidity somehow. I don't know how that happens, but there's a few ways. I think Samson Mao was talking about it. I mean, there's definitely, if you want to poke through Twitter, there's a couple people that have put together little threads on like strategies that could be implemented to acquire more Bitcoin without like that burden on the taxpayer or whatever. But
in essence,
I don't really know.
As always, a nothing burger.
Well, yeah, this one does seem to have some meat in it.
The price is going to $1 million on Friday. We're going to go 500 grand. It's nothing. It's gone down a little bit. Interesting. I'm getting now pretty bored of price predictions. You and I, neither of us are into technical analysis, the horoscopes for men, the power law. Personally, I think it's all absolute nonsense because Bitcoin this thing has never happened in human history before, so you can't predict what will happen. You can kind of, based on previous, price versus dollar, can roughly see where it goes. But then you've got the Parker Lewis gradually, then suddenly. So suddenly we just spike any model out of existence, and it could be a year, it could be 100 years. So I don't know about any of that. But I used to get into the price prediction, trying to work out who's the best. Someone will get it right in this year. Say it's at this price by the end of the year. Someone will get it right, but it's going to be luck. So I'm just like, now any price prediction I'm now ignoring or thinking that's ridiculous and annoying.
Yeah, I find myself, I mean, obviously I care about the price, but at the same time, it's kind of like the least fascinating thing about Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know.
But what we're doing. So this is again the Booth thesis, which really helped me understand how we should look at things. Because we live on the Bitcoin standard, both of us. There's times when this year, the last 3 months, we've seen an increase in price, decrease in price. So our lifestyle changes based on the increase in price and the decrease in price. So when it goes from 109, comes down to 80, when it's 80, I find myself spending less. I just don't want to,
Yeah.
I just rein in some of my spending. And when the price, I don't mind spending a little bit more. And that's kind of how we're now living on the Bitcoin standard, that's how I think about things. Do you think the same? Or
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel when the price is ripping, I feel a little bit more like motivated to do things, and then when it contracts, but I think that's also like there's something natural about that, like that expansion contraction. It's like, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The thing that like the price has really been doing for me has been like making me dig deeper and become like a little bit more spiritual and metaphysical and quantum in my thinking. And it's like, to a certain degree, like the goal is to like not spend Bitcoin. And I don't know, for me personally, I'm in a transition period in my life where by choice, I'm getting out of the cannabis business. And I knew this was coming for many, many years. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I have like planned for this transition. So I have allocated funds in my head towards this transition. Well, over the years, everything has gone into Bitcoin. So now that like I'm getting to the point where like, okay, I'm running out of income and I'm going to need to move someday sooner than later. I'm going to need to start a new business endeavor or whatever. I'm starting to have to use the Bitcoin. It's sometimes it's really fucking painful to use the funds that I knew I was needing to use at this time in my life, because now it's in Bitcoin and I'm oscillating back and forth between that like scarcity mindset and that abundance mindset, that knowing that everything that I need will be there when I need it to be there. But then you're looking at the appreciation that's like very likely to take place over the near and long term. And it really makes you think long and hard about, do I want to do this? Do I need to do this? What am I getting out of this? How much faith do I have in the universe? And blah, blah, blah.
But that's the thing with the price predict. We're always constantly talking. That's the point I wanted to make, that we're constantly talking about the price per Bitcoin in dollars, 98, 100K, whatever it is. But for us, when you're living on the Bitcoin standard, I see it when the price goes down is the products and services I need to live has gone up. And when the price goes up, the products and services I need to live get cheaper. And that's kind of the mental mindset that we go through. We live on the Bitcoin standard. We price everything in Bitcoin, in sats.
Yeah.
And when the dollar denominated price goes up, everything gets cheaper, and vice versa. And that's what I've just been going through that the last 3 months, where you've got 10K candle up, 10K down, 10K up, 10K down.
Yeah.
Over the last few months, then I was right. It's just our products and services that we need to acquire. They're either cheaper or kind of expensive. They feel like things are expensive when the Bitcoin price reduces. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, and it's like I saw Jeff Booth on Why We Are Bullish yesterday. They were talking about the SBR, and, you know, Booth, gosh, he's one of my favorite people in the world to listen to talk. And he was just like, look, if you're measuring Bitcoin in dollars, like you're measuring one system from another system, and like Bitcoin is repricing the world. It's like there's this great demonetization taking place. I call it the great demonetization, where all this monetary energy is moving out of all of these inferior assets and into Bitcoin. And so it does create this dynamic where there is and like, I don't know who a British hodl says this, it's a once in a species opportunity. This is the discovery of scarcity. This is a monumentally big deal. And so it makes you think, and like at least one of the things, maybe you have a thought on this one.
So it's Chris Croesus. It's not British hodl. It's James. It's Croesus. James, the guy who does the last trade. Yeah, the title of his theory is it's a once in a species. He wrote the thesis around once in a species.
Gotcha.
So I think that's James. It's James Croesus. He's known as Croesus. Yeah. Anyway, not hodl, but. Anyway.
So, but what I struggle with though is like I'm in a position now where I have savings that I've put into Bitcoin by choice, and actually it was the better move to like move the money out of what it was in and into Bitcoin over the last couple of years. But now I need to use some of that, and it's like, but hold on. In some sense, financially and monetarily speaking, the best thing that I can do is nothing. To like hodl fucking not go anywhere, not buy anything, just fucking hold on for dear life. Just, I don't know, get another consulting deal, help somebody with their cannabis farm that's fucking on its way to going out of business and shit. Like, oh, it's like, but then what am I doing with my life? I'm not fucking doing anything. It's like, I can't, it's like, that's a real tough one. And so, you know, gosh, I struggle with that. Like, do I just fucking hang tight? Like, how, I know I need to live my life. Like, life is finite. You only have so much time on planet Earth. That's what makes life so beautiful. Also makes Bitcoin so beautiful. It's finite in supply. That finality is part of what makes things so special. And so, yeah, I've just kind of been going through like what, like, oh gosh, you know, and then obviously it's prudent to wait until the right time and whatever. You don't want to be a fucking fiscal buffoon, but you know, at the same time, like you got to live and you got to execute. And then do you trust in the universe? Do you have an abundance mindset? Like what? So I sit here and I just hold on to my coins and I just fucking watch it appreciate. And then at like what point do you want to spend some? Like it's going up forever, Laura, right? Like we're spiraling upwards forever. So you have to execute. I don't know. So it's been like this, like very, I don't know, deep inner journey. I've been like working out here. Like, when do I move? And, you know, business wise, do I want to deploy capital for a business? Like, not really. I'm like better off just sitting on the Bitcoin. So then like, there's all these things. Okay. So whatever I do for business, it needs to be, you know, doesn't need to, I can't require a lot of capital, you know? And so I don't know. There's just all these thoughts that, you know, Bitcoin really fucking pushes on you that you have to grapple with.
We just do something in Bitcoin. That's what I'm going to do. Again, I'm in the same position as you. And I'm not desperate to I'm not going to go back to fiat land. I could go back and get a, you know, 500 grand salary selling technology in fiat land, but I'm not going to do it. I couldn't bear to do that. So I know that I'm losing money not doing something I don't want to do. So it's just, we're going to go through this, I guess, as the years pass, just to see what the space is. You know, I'm just doing fun things like selling T-shirts for OpenSats, just spiraling up forever website where buy a T-shirt, the profits go to OpenSats. You know, I do stuff with you and Michael. We're doing this now. We've got this like price ticker with a jukebox using the Node Runners jukebox. What else? I've got my kind of website where I offer free advice on self-custody. Just things like that. Just, we don't know where this is going to go. Just do stuff without this, as you say, that's this clear intention, and just see where it goes. And there's other ideas. Well, I've got event ideas, and I think we could either this what we're doing in a year's time goes well, we could take this on the road. We could go to an event. We could sit on stage and talk to people, and whatever this becomes, we could turn it into something and take it on the road. That could be fun. Go to, you know, in 10 years, we could have a stadium. We could sell out Wembley Stadium. I'm talking about it. I'm being ridiculous, of course, but we'll see where it goes.
You know, one of the things that actually, on that note, what fucks me up is when I start trying to figure out with the monkey mind, like what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, how it's going to work out. And that's kind of like trying to make things happen as opposed to allowing them to happen. And then I also found that like halfway through the year, well, one, I hit a limit with like, oh my gosh, like I went a lot of places. I met a lot of people. Like I need to kind of like regroup here and see like, like integrate all of these experiences.
Yeah.
And then I started to like kind of, I don't know, I changed my vibe in a sense because I started to focus on, okay, like how am I going to make money? And it kind of like muddied my whole energy. And then I found that I haven't been posting any content. Like I've been quiet. Also at the same time though, like I've really been focused on my relationship with my wife, my, you know, being present with my daughter. She's fucking 3 years old. You know, like that's probably why I'm bad at like returning messages and shit. Like when I'm out and about, I'm doing things like I'm, you know, blah, blah, blah. Then I get home and I sit down, like my daughter runs up to me and like wants to show me, hey, do you want to build a house with me? Do you want to play with me? And like we build the house, we take it down, and she wants to build it again. Let's do it again. Like, and so like I have to be present. And so I don't know, it's just been like, and I guess Bitcoin gives you that. Like it really helps recalibrate you. Like what is important to you in your life. And it sends you on this like very psychedelic, deep inner journey. Like, what do I want to do with this existence? You know, and like, it's the catalyst that like in some ways like really allows you to like think about it at a much deeper level than you otherwise would if you were fiat rich. If you're fiat rich, there's just all of this, I don't know, there's just a dark gray messy energy around it. And there's something just so special about Bitcoin. It is very psychedelic. Like there are moments where like I have that, like, you know, wait, Bitcoin, you're like, oh, blah, 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 the incentives, the money, the Bitcoin, and then you reverse it back. You're like, oh, well, Bitcoin fixes that. And it's like a psilocybin trip almost. New neural pathways wire in your brain and light up. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just wild, dude. It is wild. I get emotional with Bitcoin. Sometimes I just straight cry, dude. I'm just like, oh my God, can you believe it? This changes everything. Like the world was so fucked, dude. This incentive to violence that we're just fucking dumb meat suits limited to the physicality of property, dude, running around trying to fucking either prevent yourself from being killed and stolen from, or then you got the sociopaths who want to kill you and steal from you. Like that's been the fucking world since the beginning of time. And like, it's changing. It's so powerful.
I like the status of the lack of status games and the lack of next door, like beating your next door neighbor who's got a better car than you. That was like the fiat world I was living. I wasn't competing in that way because it's just nonsense. But there's the Bitcoin takes you away from that. When I did a very large cybersecurity deal with a bank, funnily enough, who printed a big number to buy some cybersecurity software, a 2-year sales cycle, and I closed the deal. I got paid the commission, and all the fiat colleagues of mine, they were like, what are you going to spend the money on, David? You're going to buy a Ferrari, pay off the mortgage? I go, no, I'm buying Bitcoin. And then they go, no, what are you going to buy yourself though? Because what they want, especially in the sales world, especially managers, they want their salespeople to be skint. So they have to work harder to bring in the bigger deals and trying to earn more money. So they want you to spend, if you earn money, they want you to spend it all immediately. So you have to find the next big deal. And it's that's the constant cycle of like psychological insanity when you're being, and the game's being changed because the money's being debased. And so and then the next day after I said I'm buying Bitcoin, I said I bought something. I bought a new, I was wearing an Apple Watch. So I bought a new watch strap for my Apple Watch.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be rolling up in a Ferrari, David. I was like, and I bought some AirPods, which I shouldn't use anymore. I think wide's the way forward. According to Jack Krause, Uncle Jack, wide is the way forward.
Yeah, I got to do the same thing.
Yeah, with the EMS, and that's kind of a nice little rabbit hole I'm going down now. But yeah, we could probably wrap this up soon. I've got.
I just want to add into it. That's interesting to hear you say that about your sales job. Because in my early 20s, I sold cars for Toyota, and that's what the managers wanted. They wanted you to like get in debt. They're just like, hey, go to Nordstrom's, buy the $200 tie. You should, dude. You're like, what do you mean you're not wearing a $1,500 suit? Like, I work at a fucking Toyota store, Like, and I always like nice things. I want to look nice, but like, I definitely felt an aversion. Like, hold on, like I got a fresh car. Like, I don't need to get like a new one. Like, I literally just bought one 9 months ago. Like, why would I buy a fucking another car? And that's just something that's so fiat. Like, it's this, this constant just waste of resources, just literally just moving through energy and resources, just squandering it. And like, yeah, I have such an aversion to that. It's so bad, dude. It's so bad for the planet, so bad for your spirit, your being. It's like, it's just wasteful.
Consume.
Yeah.
It's like you can reward yourself for, doing something. I had quite a traumatic sales experience. There's a lot of people. I had to sell through a partner, and they were just constantly lying to me. And it was the end of lockdown. I remember I talk about this a little bit, doing magic mushrooms and having Zoom calls with the business partner. And when we were discussing and negotiating the commercials, I could tell when they were lying to me. And they were constantly lying. There was like little eye movements, and they're constantly lying to try and get better price or get better terms. And because I was like perceptive to what they were doing, but it's like it's just not nice to go through that. And also, this may be a little controversial, but being a old straight white bloke, if I lost my job, if I didn't do the deal and I lost my job, this is the stress I'm talking about. If I didn't do I knew I was going to do it, but if I didn't for some reason, I lost a job. How do I get another job? In the world of like
DEI and shit.
Well, and I was telling my wife, I go, the stress, and this is all builds of the stress, debasement of money, straight old white bloke. If I don't do this deal, what am I going to do? We're going to end up in a caravan. Also the price of the mortgage was going up because which we Bitcoiners have clearly been tracking, And I knew it was going from a base rate of like 0.5% to 5%, which meant my mortgage would go from like $3,000 to $10,000, for example. So it's like there's a lot of stresses that the fiat world puts on you. And this is what I want to get across to, you know, some of my still I don't want to be rude to call them normies, but no coiners, let's say no coiners, or relatively new coins, or a bit shitcoiny still. That, you know, there's so many benefits that you and I have got out of this protocol that we just want to share with people. But, you know, orange pilling people is another longer story.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's something so liberating about, like, and you have the same strategy I do. I live in a rental. You sold your house. I sold my house. I sold my cannabis farm. I had gold. So I sold fucking everything, and I'm all in on Bitcoin. I live in a rental. I have a truck. My wife has a SUV. I have some nice knives to cut my steaks with. You know, I have some decent clothes. I prefer cotton to polyester. You know, like, I don't know. It's like, it's so liberating. If I need to go, I just go. Dude, the fucking fires in California, like, it's just so many things have happened over the years. The truckers get censored. You're like, Bitcoin. Fires happen. People are losing their, you know, homeowners insurance, losing their houses. You're like, fucking shit out, you know, that's why I got the Bitcoin. Like, I don't know. It's like the strategy's real good, dude. Just, you know, you don't need all that crap.
It's definitely working for us. It's working for us.
It is liberating.
Good man.
Yes.
All right, end it here.